Hey guys, welcome back to another modding video. Today's going to be a little bit of a combo thing, a let's mod from start to finish, and also finally going into carving. Haven't spent a lot of time actually talking about my carving process. I'm going to go a little bit more in-depth into that as we work on a customized AK handguard, but the principles would apply to any kind of carving. So on screen right now are going to be a few of the inspo images that I had in mind. None of those I'm going to mention are like pulled up right now. That's just a few of the things that I Googled in the past. This is more of kind of go along with the process mod, but I think it's always good to start out with a general idea of what you want to make before you make it. The base of this mod is going to be the AKM. We're stripping away most of this. One of the first things I'm going to do is just get the stock and grip off of the AK, but you want to kind of keep that trigger guard as like complete as you can. So we're going to cut behind and in front of the trigger guard really quick. So right up here, push that in. Perfect. And then we're going to go right behind it as well, where it has actual contact with the grip. Perfect. Okay. We're just going to get the stock and some of that extra stuff off. Lining that up along the edge, pushing down, and then the same thing with the grip up here too. Just kind of trying to line up into that gap. And then I'll usually cover my thumb with my shirt and then just put my like body weight into it. And then you can cut down some of those really thick parts with not too much like stress going through it. You have those stress marks on the AK. Don't worry about those for now, but you can get rid of those with your fingertip, so it's not, or your fingernail, it's not too big of a deal, but we're just going to keep stripping stuff off of this AK. And you'll also notice on that first cut, it's not perfectly clean. I tried to angle the blade away from the gun, but it's very simple. You just go back, kind of look at it from like a top-down view if that helps, and then polish up that last little edge. So it's a bit smoother. There you go. For this mod, I don't intend to keep this top blocking at all, so I'm just going to cut back here in case I want to preserve any of these bits, and then do a diagonal cut there to start working on removing the trunnion. So let's first just get the barrel tip and everything off. Cut a little bit beforehand, again, covering my thumb with my shirt, and then pushing down. Gets that off like that. We're going to do the same thing. This is going to be a bit more of a destructive cut. This part's not going to get like, it's not going to be usable, but we're just going to go in at an angle and get most of that off in one cut. Definitely a thicker piece of plastic. You can see that was a slower cut there, but we got a good portion of it off, and we're just going to go through slowly in a second and get the rest of that off too. The first step that I do is I just get this first little top half, and we're going to line it up again a little bit away from where you actually want to cut it, because it's a lot easier to go back after and kind of touch it up than it is to accidentally go too far. And now we're just rotating it 90 degrees, cutting it again, and you can see that's it didn't get it all the way, but with my fingernail, that's going to get rid of that top block right there. And we're just going to repeat that same like L-shaped cut down here. So the mag's in the way. We're going to just try to, again, cut away most of the mag. Ideally, if you can, you want to try and, destroy as little of the mold as possible. Because in the future, you're going to need like, for some different mod, Murphy's Law, you're going to end up needing that specific AK style mag. So we're just going through. Mags you always want to be careful with, because again, we have that like trigger guard back there, and trigger guards can be kind of annoying to mod, so I always try to keep them unbothered if I can. But we're just going in slowly. Again, trying to cut through right past the mag. And then kind of a little back and forth game. But keeping that shaping helps a lot, because there's like the magwell isn't a perfect magwell shape. It's molded like against the shape of the magazine, or not the mag well, the little trigger guard. So it's nice to keep that in its proper shape, because that way when we put another AK mag back in, it's going to fit flush right into that groove. But now to go back to the actual important part, we're just going to go a little cut down there. And I really have to put my my body weight into it, just because of how thick that plastic is right there. And then we're going to repeat that same process on the side. There we go. A little bit of flakes left. So as you can see, that's not like a perfect trunnion cut. There's still all that little stuff on the side, but that's where we're just going to go slowly and try to polish that up. Sorry, my camera doesn't have the best zoom, so I apologize for the loss in pixels and everything, but I want you guys to get a good view of what is going on here. So again, we're just going back slowly with the razor blade now, and we're just going to be polishing up everything here to get rid of these last little bits. We're going to see like all these little squares. We're just going through slowly, cutting away slice by slice. It's really important to just go slow, take your time with it, because I think of it like whittling wood. If you ever whittle too much wood away, there's no way to like bring that wood back really. You just got to find the new stick. And so it's good to try and keep this as slow and polished as you can. But we're just going through here. Almost done with these trunnion cuts. I think that's what it's called, the trunnion. Some kind of onion sounding word. Not too big on gun stuff unless it was in a COD campaign. But it's still fun to learn about a lot of these things. So there we go. We got those nice 90-degree angles. That's what we're looking for. Keeping things flush as much as you can really helps when it comes to gluing everything together. You can see the little plastic flecks all over my hand. This is the result of modding this way, but you're either going to get plastic flakes on your hand from cutting super small, or you get plastic dust in the air from sanding. So either way, it's good to wear a mask and to have a fan running when you can. So we've got like the base of the AK cut out. We're just going to set that to the side. That's kind of like our building block for everything else today. And we're going to start parting some of these different molds out for the different parts that I have in my head. This is like a partial PKM that a buddy sent me. You can literally use any gun that has like a wood grip, but I'm just taking the grip off of this one because it's already like a partially modded item, and I want to try and use it for all it's worth. But I want to use a Sharps barrel for the upper like gas block thing, the magazine from this. We're going to try to carve the like the grip out of these stocks, and then I'm a fan of the optic and silencer on this gun. So we'll see. And then also probably the stock from this. You can make these as, you know, with as few parts or as much as you want. People ask me a lot about like parts usage and where do you think of the ideas. Honestly, it can just help to just stare at all your parts and try to like rotate them around, think of them in as many like unique little odd ways as you can. Because there's really no wrong way to go about this, especially if you're not like making something that specifically already exists. You have a lot of room for just having fun. But yeah, to jump into it, we're going to get the little grip off of this one. Again, cutting into that little mag or trigger well cover to just try and get some of the shaping away from that. Keep it consistent with the AK. There we go, that's pretty far in. And now we just got to go in through the back. But this stock is in the way, so I'm going to try to non-destructively get rid of the stock, because that is a nice brown stock, and it would be great to save that for like a later project. Just gonna go in, line it up, put pressure, and holy crap, that's tough. That didn't go in the first try. If that ever happens, I'll usually flip it to the other end and do the same thing. And that usually, wow. This is why you drink your milk and eat your vegetables, guys. Still having issues getting through this stock. We got a fair bit through it. There we go. In these cases where stuff is really hard to cut through, this is where I'd recommend checking out my hammering video. And that's typically what I would do in this moment, but I want to just try and show you guys that you can get through these without having to use hammering if you don't feel confident like doing that. So there you go. I just had to stand up a little bit and get a better angle on it. but you can see we got that off nice. There's a little bit we just got to clean up on the back, and we're good to go. So just to show you guys what that cleanup looks like, it really is just rotating it around, looking for any small blemishes and just trying to polish it up. Like that had a small bit of black that was still stuck to the mold. I just cut it off the front. And now we're going to do a little test fit. Test fit as much as you can. Yeah. I ended up doing way too much of a back and forth on the stock shaping, but or just the angle of the stock, or the grip, but I'm pretty happy with how it is now. We just got to go through, add a stock to that in a little bit, and I think it's going to be better. But it is important. Like I'm noticing even after doing some of these cuts, like some of the super small blemishes, and it's just worth it to go back and polish a few of those up and just make that extra smooth. We've got the body and the little grip shaped out. I'm just trying to test fit these as much as you can to make sure that the angle on them and everything is right. I think this one looks wrong in my head, but I need to put a stock on there to actually see how it compares. So we're just going to set those little parts to the side and grab the stock off of this guy. These stock removals are pretty easy. We're just going in, lining it up, and pop. Just to see that's going to go right there later. Perfect. All right, so we'll set those again to the side. We got a little pile of mod stuff. We're kind of done with that for now. If I'm ever, like, quote-unquote done with a part, I'll try to just put it to the side so I don't misremember anything. Now to get the magazine off this guy, gonna be a little bit more tricky. But I am a big fan of this Brickarms color. It's like dark orange. So just popping down there. That's another surprisingly tough mold. There we go. Just through on that side. Blade stuck a bit. We're good. Now I'm trying to think. I want to save that top part, but I don't mind damaging this bottom part a little bit. So we're just going to clip off this bottom nub so that it doesn't get in the way in a second. And now we're going back. We're going to line it up for this magazine right there. And this is definitely going to be one that's going to require some force. So I'm just going to try to leverage myself a bit on it. I'm sorry that my shirt covers up what I'm exactly doing with the cloth, but really, to walk you through it, like I'm just holding it still with one hand and then putting as much pressure as I can on the other hand. Now this mold has a folded magazine on the side, so I'm just cutting off a part of that folded magazine that's attached to the gun. And we can try to just scrape that out with our hand. Yeah, that's not bad. It's going to look a little bit funky if you look at the mod from the other side, because you'll see that blemish, but from this side, which is what we're going for, that mag fits perfectly. All right, so we've got the magazine, the grip, the stock, the body. We're working our way towards the barrel now. We'll grab these off really quick. And I would normally recommend to do drilling beforehand, before you cut anything off, so it's a little bit easier to hold. But since this is such a grippable piece, I'm just gonna drill a little hole into the silencer. Again, usually doing this before you cut the tip off helps a lot if it's a small piece, but since it's a big enough piece that I can just hold with my fingers, that's not bad at all. And we're just going through, kind of like spinning the drill in circles to make the hole a little bit bigger than it normally would be. But then you've got a little barrel. So we're getting there. We're getting pretty close now. You see we've got all these parts to the AK. Really, we just need to get like the grip situated now. And that's where carving is going to come into play. Carving can be a really slow but also rewarding process. You're going to need like an X-Acto blade like this, and then depending on the case, sometimes I'll look for a specialty X-Acto kit. You can get them at Home Depot, certain places, but like this one, for example, has just a flat square razor, which can come pretty helpful in certain situations. we're trying to make a little curved handguard out of these grips. If it was a larger block, I would recommend using like plate stacking to make like a big square first, but since it's something small enough, I think we can get away with just using the stocks on these guns. When it comes to carving, it can help to have like a general plan of the shape that you want to do. So using this X-Acto blade, I'm kind of just going to go through and try to do some like rough line work of kind of where I want everything to end up being. So I'm looking in comparison to, if you're carving out like a certain thing, like an AK grip, it can help a bunch too to have like an AK grip within reach, because then you can kind of hold up and see how big it is compared to one another. Like realizing now, yeah, I should probably go this way. So that's about that long. What about here? About there, yep. Cool. Another thing to just keep in mind for is that if you're ever using like production sprues, things you got from a retailer's website, to keep in mind for like the little circle right there, that's like the little stamp. And I don't know if it's just me, but I'll try very hard to avoid ever like cutting near those or having those shown on a mock or on a mod, just because they can look, some of your lines that were clean look not as clean as they used to be. But again, we're just going in here. I'm just roughly sizing everything together. There we go. So we know that the foregrip is going to be roughly from here to there. And then from there, it's just bolt cuts and taking away large bits of mass, little bits of mass. Again, it's kind of like that whittling mentality or that woodworking mentality where you have the stock, you know what you want to turn it into. Like you have that mental vision, or whether you have the image or the in your head or pulled aside, you know what you want it to look like. And I want it to be this kind of rectangular flat top and then a little droopy thing at the bottom for the hand guard, like hand stop. So before I cut too much, I want to start getting a rough idea of how big this back end needs to be. So probably about down to here, down to there, and down here. But just to try to keep an eye on all that and have it be a consistent shape. I don't want to bring that too far down. So I have, just using the X-Acto, the light's not going to show it too well, but just a rough outline plan for this. And we're going to keep just taking away as much bulk material as we can at once before going in and trying to get some of the finer adjustments. So I'm going to go over here, get that back little nub off. We'll go to the bottom and cut off all the parts down there that I know we won't be using. So like this little indent. Think of like making a very blocky version of it first, and then from there you're going to make it a super smooth version. But so we're just going through, having to use my body as leverage where I can to get these cuts, because the stocks and carving can be pretty thick material to get through. But just popping off these segments like that and continuing to go bit by bit with that. Keep going. This on the bottom. We know, or I know that I want this little back nub gone. We'll try to get through that. And again, there we go. So you can see so far already, we've got a rough general shaping for a foregrip, but obviously there's still more to go. It can help to try to keep as much of it connected to the body as you can for as long as you can. That way it just helps with like sanding and polishing up later. versus if this was all cut off like that, you have very little to hold on to or to grip onto. We're just going through more, shaping this bit by bit, taking off these little flakes, and again, it really does help to have some kind of proper ventilation or whatever you have going on, but just something to not inhale all of this plastic in one bit is ideal. We're just going through, trying to polish this up. Just getting these fine little shapings done, it's really good to, again, just go slowly with it. You have like those blockiness. It's going to start off with, again, like that Minecraft looking shape, and you're just going slowly and trying to polish it up wherever you can. So I'm just going in here. I want it to be a little bit of a thinner gap. So we're just going, this is where like that razor, that straight edge razor that I was talking about really comes in handy, because you can get into some of those angles a little bit easier than with a razor blade. But it really comes down to what you're comfortable using and what you feel safe holding. This line right down there is where it's going to get cut off eventually. So I'm just trying to smoothen this whole like ridge connection up into that point. So it's a bit more of like a fluid transition and not just jumping from one elevation to the other. We're definitely to the point now where it's like smaller, finer adjustments, not just the big stuff. I'll hit my lamp there by accident. But before we break it off, like at the connection and really get to the fine sanding, we're just going to work a little bit more on that back end and get rid of that 90-degree angle to it. I'm just going in slowly with this razor blade and trying to make the this back connection a little bit less sharp. It's going to look very sharp for most of the stuff before you get sanding involved, but there's still a lot that you can do with just the razor blade. I'm just trying to get that rough look and feel to it. So we're pretty much at the point now where we have the foregrip shaping. You can see, I blocked it with my fingernail, what kind of look we're going for. And this is where sandpaper is going to come in really handy, because we can just go in and smoothen out a lot of these edges. So again, since it's really fine work, I'm just using 3K. I'm going to take a little piece and just fold it up a bit like this. Now, since it's still on the gun itself, it's really easy to go through. But we can just go through and start sanding up all these edges and making them look a lot more smooth. Folding the sandpaper into different like layers is going to help a lot with getting into these like thin cracks and sanding out those, because just trying to get them with like the standard sanding paper is not going to help that much. But folding them up gives it a bit of like rigidity, and then you can get it in those crevices and go back and forth and just smoothen them out a bit. Got it sanded down a fair bit now, to the point where I'm pretty comfortable taking it off of the stock. So that's just what we're going to do now, is you're going to cut a little bit ahead of where we want to actually cut. Push that down. And then we're going to go back and just cut that where I actually wanted to cut it. And again, you know, just cutting a little bit beyond where your intended mark is really helps, because then you can go in slowly and just polish it up versus having to accidentally cut too far back initially, and then all your work is useless. We got the little foregrip now. Just got to do some more sanding and polishing around the edges, and then it's pretty much good to be glued on later. So I keep having the urge to like do a bunch of the work off camera and just show you updates, but that's not what a tutorial really is. So we're just going to go in. I'm using this tool again for a little bit more precision, but just polishing up the edges, getting rid of any little blemish marks or things that are protruding more than they should. Go through there. Perfect. Make sure it's flat. Yep. And we're pretty much good to go. Needs like a little, the grip needs to be a bit thinner, is something that I'm realizing. So I'm just going to go through, like really, there is no point where it's too late in a mod to go back and improve it. You always have the space to go back and change something up, fix it up a bit, make it look different, better. Sometimes you go back and you make it worse. And then, you know, it's okay. You go back and you do it again. Make it better the third time. But when I first got into modding, I felt this pressure that I had to make a bunch of mods and then I had to post a bunch of stuff. But truthfully, it's like, no, it's all about practice, and making a lot of those posts gave me practice, but it would have been nicer to just take my time with some of those posts more and really enjoy it for a bit. All right, again, looking at the final shaping of that, pretty happy with how that's looking. You can always go back and sand the edges a little bit more, but for now, we're going to put that to the side with the pile of little parts that we're happy with. Just for the gas block extension, I'm just going to use the Sharps rifle. It's always perfect for this because it's got that, just a bunch of thin barrels all over it. So we'll cut this barrel segment off, and if for whatever reason it's too thin, we can always use the bottom barrel on this because it's got a little bit more width to it. But that should be good. Realistically, there's very little left to add to the mod, or that I can really think of. In terms of an optic, I kind of want to just keep it like bare bones iron sights, so I'm not too worried about cutting off an optic mount or anything. But these are most of our parts. It's pretty much time to start assembling. We're finally at the last stage of this, gluing, which is like, what? I can't tell you guys how long this video is taking to make. Hopefully it's edited down to a manageable watch time. But to just go over some stuff that I talked about in a few earlier videos. Gluing. I use this blue cap Gorilla Glue. There's a lot of glues on the market. Try a few out, see which one works best. I'd avoid some of like the super jelly ones. This glue in specific has a long set time, meaning that if you put a little bit of glue on the pieces, and there's a long time that you can readjust them and kind of move it around before it bonds. The downside is that it's not that strong. Like if you drop it a few feet, it's gonna break. There's glues like plastic surgery, which are more of a chemical solvent. Those require you to have really precise initial placements, but those will be a really strong bond. So again, I think it comes down to what you're comfortable with. Personally, I have literally only ever used this glue. I've never even tried other ones. I want to start trying some other ones, but out of just like how familiar I am with it, this is the glue I use, but I don't want to say it's the best. For glue application, I definitely recommend like a palette. My buddy Mason, JMonkey14, crazy modder, he's got a great idea where he uses the clamshell packaging from like Workshop Wonders and stuff, because it has that recess to it, which is really nice. I have an old phone screen that I've been using for a long while. It looks like an absolute mess, but I'll literally just pick a spot and then put maybe a quarter of a penny sized, like a fourth of a penny droplet there. And it's good to extend your mechanical pencil a good bit, because you can accidentally, oh, come on, there we go. You don't want to accidentally glue the hole shut, and then that's a pain. This is going to be a bit of a, you know, as we go process. There's a few parts that I might have to pull aside, like the stock that I just realized. That's not, oh no, that is flush. It's just got creasing on it. And I mentioned earlier, all that creasing can come off with your fingernail. And if your fingernail, I take the backside of a razor blade, and you can kind of just press on it, literally just pressing on it, and you see it's black. So if you ever have that creasing, not the end of the world. Don't really worry about it. All you got to do, just put some pressure on it with something like stiff, and you're good to go. I'm just going through and kind of, even though most of this is going to get covered up by things getting glued to them, I tend to like to just go through and try to get out all those crease marks, because just in case it peeks through on the side, you don't want that like whiteness to be there. All right, now to start gluing, I usually go back to front. like working from the stock and the grip forwards. So we're going to try to do the grip first. Just taking a little bit of glue there. See, it's really not much at all that I'm using. You don't need to use too much, and the more you use, the more likely you are to, whoa! It's good to get a good grip. The more likely you are for it to like push out to the sides and bleed on the edges, which is never looks good. So we're just lining this up. And again, I've got a good amount of time before this starts really to set, but we can see right there. Perfect. That's great. And then I held the grip up so many times that I knew that was going to fit pretty well, but it's always a good bet to try to hold up the parts from different angles and just try to look how it's going to look. If you manage to glue it on straight, just because that you glued the two surfaces on cleanly doesn't mean that the connections are going to be straight, because you could have both of the connections smooth, but one's at a slightly wrong angle. And now when you glue them together, it's going to look flush, but it's going to be tilted to an angle. So you just want to be mindful of that. Same with this. Like when I glue it, it's good to kind of rotate it, look at it from some different angles, check and make sure it's in the right spot. See right there. It's going good so far. And so we test fitted the grip a bunch. I knew that the grip was going to go on pretty well. Now we're just going for the stock. Which AK stocks are cursed for me. I tend to always have a lot of issues with them. So we're going to hope that this is the curse being lifted. But yeah, it's just the fine adjustments. Making sure it's good. You know, rotate it on different angles. Try to see how it looks on different sides. Because just because it's good on one side doesn't mean it's good on all of them. It's really easy for things to get like it's hard to explain, but if you look at it from just this angle, that might look straight. But then if you flip it from the bottom, you're going to see that it's at a pretty intense tilt. Now that we have the stock and the grip on, we're going to go to put the mag on too. And mags can always be a little bit of an issue just because of how thin they are. But we're going to hope for the best again, too, and just see how it goes. Oh, that's perfect. Lovely. So there, now we've got the grip, the stock, and the magazine on. I'm just going to give each of those a little bit to dry. Make sure they're on tight. All right, now we're just adding the little gas block thingy. And every now and then it's good to just break off the pencil lead, because it'll eventually like harden into a little bulb, and you don't really want that bulbing to happen. So there we go. We've got the AK, the grip, and the gas block on. Now we've just got these last two little bits. This little oval is actually from earlier. It was a piece that I said maybe I'll end up needing it, so we'll cut behind it, and then lo and behold, we do need it. Lo and behold. So, you know, that's a saying, man. You ever realize that? How many sayings that you say that you might just be saying wrong? I was saying the word irregardlessly for years. It's not even a word. Making a fool out of myself. Unbelievable. Anyways, back to modding. This last little piece was one that I set aside thinking that I might need it later, and I ended up needing it, so it worked out well. But it's just a little connector piece between the front and the back of the AK. Put that right there. Oh no. Okay. So I just realized, you know, and that happens sometimes as you're gluing, but the little black beam is sticking out just a hair too much. So that was a little bit risky, but I cut it off. Cut it off from the mod. If you ever feel confident enough to not want to break it apart, you can cut it off from the mod, but I wouldn't recommend that too much. And so now we're just going back and gluing that together again. Oh, I put it upside down. There we go. Now we're just adding one of the last bits, this little like trunnion-ish piece that I just dropped. Nope, it's on my finger. There we go. That's always scary. Managed to drop something where it doesn't belong, and you're just like, crap. Is it donezo? Are we gone? No, we're chilling. So we'll put that on right there. Perfect. There we go. It's just that little blob. All right, so we're just gonna glue on the grip, which carved parts are always kind of annoying to glue, but the shaping on that seems solid. That's nice. Perfect, perfect. Got that on just like that. Give that a second to set. Some more glue up top for the little like trunnion break thingy. Gas block? I think it's called the gas block. Yeah, I'm like 80% sure on that. And then I just cut that down a little bit to be in line with the hand guard. I was going to use a silenced end for it, but I think I want to keep it on the shorter side. So I think we're just going to go, yeah, I think that's the move. So we got that down. We're just going to go with the shorter barrel from the normal crink mold, because I think that it ties together a little bit more just being on the shorter end. Put that down. And perfect. So we've got, there you go, that's how you make an AK with carved furniture. Got close-ups on it. There we go. Yeah, if you guys have questions, if you want to see specific things in the future, let me know. I'll probably end up making a figure for this guy too at some point, maybe going into depths on how I do like some of the custom figure stuff, but the tutorial on that is basically going to be like, I took this idea from Danny, and I took this idea from George, and it's just that for like 10 minutes. But legitimately, Angry Stash and Pyrotechnics, Ingoing Wheel 2, all massive inspirations for figures. Definitely check them out if you can. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and Brickarms.